When Teddy Bridgewater signed with Carolina, there was a very obvious question that came up about what the Saints were going to do as far as their backup quarterback. By now, if you listen to the show, I lobbied early that the Saints should go sign Jameis Winston. Many of you pushed back on that. We talked about it here on the show a good bit. And ultimately, they did. So I was able to take a victory lap, and that's kind of cool. But the criticism of Winston that has persisted has been largely about decision-making, attitude, things like that. No one's ever denied the physical ability, right? I mean, it's the physical ability that allowed Jameis Winston to become a national championship quarterback, the youngest Heisman Trophy winner ever, the number one overall pick. I mean, we forget, some of you forget, that he threw for 5,000 yards last season, the 8th highest single-season total ever. Ever. And the interceptions last year, though, the eat a W, some of that stuff has blinded many from the good or erased the good in the minds of many. I would encourage you, if you have time, and this is a long read, but Tyler Dunn did a feature for Bleacher Report on Jameis Winston. And the headline is, quote, "This is not over for me. Jameis Winston was a Heisman winner, national champion, top draft pick, and stat giant. Now he's on the bench. But the 26-year-old Saints quarterback doesn't plan to stay there long. Winston gives Bleacher Report magazine an inside look at his plan to return to NFL stardom." A couple of things I don't want to go through in here, because this is what stood out to me most. I went through some of the accolades, right? Youngest player to win a Heisman, national championship winning quarterback, number one overall pick, cannon arm, 5,100 yards, 8th most ever in the history of the NFL. And here he is as a backup. And one of the quotes Jameis Winston told Bleacher Report was, quote, "I know what I'm worth, and I know day in and day out, without publicly coming in and saying it, that historically, I'm one of the best quarterbacks to play the game." Now, some people are going to hear that, or they're going to read that.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please
Siri. Like, how do you live with technology? You kidding me? What did I say that would set her off? Anyway. So Winston said, historically, I'm one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. And that quote has gotten a lot of attention over the last, 24 hours or so. And I understand why it does, but the thing that I wanted to see most from Jameis Winston, because the upside with bringing in Jameis Winston was obvious. But what would his actions be in light of losing his starting job, being relegated to a backup role, being the 55th highest paid quarterback in the NFL? That is a giant slice of humble pie, of humility, for a guy that has a big personality. But he's been willing to do that. So in response to that, I mean, taking a $1 million deal, that alone illustrates maturity, humility, things that a lot of people have questioned about Winston. But since the end of the season, Jameis Winston went vegan. He's lost 17 pounds. You know how easy it is or how difficult it is when you're a meat eater to switch to a completely plant-based diet? Ain't no way in hell I'd ever do that. Jameis Winston's lost 17 pounds. He had LASIK surgery to improve his vision. He's doing custom drills every single day to work on his decision-making, to improve the interception problem that plagued him a year ago, what he calls an anomaly. And, of course, now he gets to learn from a Canton-bound quarterback in Drew Brees. In this interview with Bleacher Report, he said, quote, "It's not over for me. I'm 26. There's people talking about me like I'm an old, washed-up quarterback, like I'm 40 years old. I've got so much life. I've got so much energy." He also mentioned a couple of things that have largely gone unknown until now. Jameis Winston last year played with a torn meniscus. Take it from a guy in his mid-30s that tore his meniscus and had the surgery. Walking around with a torn meniscus is no fun. I can't imagine even playing. I couldn't even do anything with impact with a torn meniscus. He was playing quarterback in the NFL with a torn meniscus. And also, Jameis Winston played the final 3.5 games of last season with a broken thumb on his throwing hand. That's when 10 of the interceptions came. 10 came in 3.5 games after he broke his thumb. The thumb was broken so badly that Winston had to immobilize the thumb in a hard cast for a month to let it heal. So he was playing with a torn meniscus, a broken thumb, and that's when 10 interceptions popped up at the end of the season. I'm not justifying it, but it does go to explain why that's an anomaly. In his career, he had never had more than 20 in a season. And then you go north of 30? That clearly is an outlier. But the other thing, too, man, once he realized, and they go through this in this feature piece. Now, again, I would highly recommend you go read it at Bleacher Report. Again, this is not over for me. Is the title of it? Jameis Winston was a Heisman winner, national champion, top draft pick, and stat giant. Now he's on the bench, and then it talks about his quest to regain form and to be a starter again in the NFL. But the other thing about this that was so telling is he talked about why he wanted to go to New Orleans. And he says that's easy. It was fit. Said Sean Payton sincerely wanted him. Of all the teams that called, Sean Payton was the first and the most eager to get him there. And let's be clear, Sean Payton knows Jameis Winston. He's watched him for the last half decade, played against him twice a year. He's scouted him. He's coached against him. He's watched him in games. Payton wanted him. And then Winston also mentioned the opportunity to work with Drew Brees. Quote, it's different. This is Jameis Winston. Quote, it's different when you have someone who's a Hall of Fame quarterback that you can ask. He can say, hey, bro, don't watch this stuff. Just watch me. Come work out with me. Let's work out together. Let's do this again. Let's watch film together. Now he has no choice because I'm going to be sitting in the room. I'm going to be with him every day. Yo, this does not sound like the eat a W Jameis Winston. This does not sound like the young punk kid at Florida State who jumped up on a table in the student union and was shouting obscenities. This doesn't sound like the Jameis Winston who had been suspended and still dressed out for a game and had to be undressed on the field by Jimbo Fisher before he had to literally go undress in the locker room. This sounds like a guy at 26 who's met adversity probably for the first time in his life. And instead of sulking or shrinking or having his career derailed because of it, he's elevated. That's what you want. You meet adversity, and then you accept it, and you figure how you can be better. Dude went vegan. He's lost 17 pounds. Dude went had LASIK. He's improved his vision. He's doing drills every single day right now. He's in contact with Drew Brees about how to improve certain things. He said, I'm not going to go take the best deal. I'm going to go to the best fit for me that's going to make me a better player. That's what I want in a quarterback. That's what I want in a leader. And it wrapped up by saying, quote, I'm 100% confident that I will be the quarterback I want to be for the remainder of my career. Y'all, I'm going to tell you what. I know there's a lot of people here who are big-time Taysom Hill fans, and I'm in the front of that line. I love what Taysom Hill brings to the New Orleans Saints. I love the role he plays. I love the energy he brings. I love what he does as far as making other teams scheme against him because he can do so many things. But the reality is Taysom Hill is pushing 30 years old and has never been a starting quarterback in the NFL. Jameis Winston is a physical freak, has a 5,000-yard season under his belt. He's only 26 years old, and he has taken all of that raw ability and is now finally focusing and honing, and he has a mentor that can help him through this season and be better. If you're a Saints fan and you can't be excited about the possibilities that exist with Jameis Winston, you need to check yourself and why you're really objecting to this. Go read that piece. It's up at Bleacher Report. I tweeted it earlier. Again, go to Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report Mag is where it is, but you can go to BleacherReport.com and read it. Again, this is not over for me. Jameis Winston was a Heisman winner, national champion, top draft pick, and stat giant. Now he's on the bench, but the 26-year-old Saints quarterback doesn't plan to stay there long. Great piece by Tyler Dunn at Bleacher Report. Y'all go give it a read at BleacherReport.com on Saints backup Jameis Winston.